Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Alexander here, ready to give your day a delightful jolt with the latest buzz from the Witworks realm. I hope you're all cruising smoothly on the good vibes expressed this fine day. Now, let's talk about today's episode, which is generously sponsored by the illustrious Gizmo League. Think of them as the Avengers of tech gadgets and gaming gear, truly the best in the biz. They're all about bringing you the most cutting-edge, futuristic gizmos that'll make you feel like you've stepped into a sci-fi blockbuster. And let's not forget, they're the reason we're all gathered here, so let's give them a big round of applause. Be sure to check out www.gizmoleague.com after the show for your dose of tech greatness. Now, let's dive into today's most riveting story. Top 10. Forbidden knowledge you were never meant to discover. Introduction. Have you ever stumbled upon a secret so well guarded it feels like you've just crossed the threshold into the forbidden realm of what were they thinking? From lost civilizations to cosmic conundrums, some knowledge is so tantalizingly elusive that it's almost like the universe is saying, seriously, you're better off not knowing this. So, buckle up as we dive into the top 10 forbidden pieces of knowledge that you were probably never meant to discover. It's a wild ride through the annals of the unknown, where ignorance truly is bliss sometimes. 1. The ancient astronaut theories. Where do we even start? It's the ultimate cocktail of history, mystery, and a sprinkle of Hollywood-level imagination. Picture this. You're in ancient Egypt, and instead of pharaohs and hardworking builders crafting the wonders of the world, you've got a bunch of little green men from another galaxy handing out blueprints and zipping around in UFOs. Seems a bit far-fetched, right? Let's talk about the popular aliens built the pyramids theory. Sure, it's a fun one. The idea that ancient Egyptians had a helping hand from some intergalactic contractors is the stuff of late-night TV and countless memes. It's almost like giving ancient civilizations a cosmic free pass. Oh, you didn't build that 6 million-ton stone structure, the aliens did. Now, don't get me wrong, the pyramids are mind-blowing. With their precise alignments and enormous stones, it's easy to see why people might think there's something otherworldly about them. But if you look a little closer, what's really amazing is the sheer ingenuity, determination, and dare I say it, sweat that the Egyptians put into these colossal structures. They didn't have lasers or anti-gravity beams, just some good old-fashioned human persistence and creativity. And here's the thing. If aliens did drop by Earth, do you really think they'd roll up their sleeves and start hauling limestone blocks in the desert heat? Come on, they're aliens. With all that advanced technology, they'd probably be lounging in some luxury space cruiser, sipping on cosmic cocktails while they livestream their latest galactic exploits. Manual labor? Not likely. The ancient astronaut theories are more like the ancient equivalent of blaming your missing homework on the dog, entertaining, but a bit of a stretch. It's fun to imagine, though, and that's probably why this theory has stuck around for so long. It's the ultimate what-if scenario, but one that's better suited for a sci-fi novel than a history textbook. So, while it's amusing to ponder the possibility of alien architects, let's give credit where it's due. The ancient Egyptians didn't need any extraterrestrial help to build their monuments. They were perfectly capable of that all on their own. And if the aliens ever did visit, I'm betting they took one look at the pyramid construction site and decided to leave the hard work to the professionals. After all, who wants to be an intergalactic stonemason when you could be cruising through the stars instead? 2. The secret ingredient in Coca-Cola. Ah, the mystique of Coca-Cola's secret formula, a tale as old as time, or at least as old as your grandmother's glass Coke bottle collection. For decades, the world has been tantalized by the idea that deep within the hallowed halls of Coca-Cola headquarters, a small group of executives guards the recipe like it's the Holy Grail. Some say it's locked in a vault so secure that even James Bond would need a few extra gadgets to crack it open. The secrecy is so intense that you might wonder if the recipe is written on parchment, sealed with wax, and hidden under a mountain guarded by a dragon. But let's be real for a second. If there were anything truly earth-shattering in that formula, it would have leaked by now. I mean, this is the age of social media oversharing, where people can't even keep their Wordle scores to themselves. If the secret ingredient were something wild like unicorn tears or a pinch of moon dust, we'd have heard about it by now, probably from someone's cousin's friend who claims to know a guy who worked in the vault for a summer. Yet, here we are, still speculating, and, let's be honest, enjoying the mystery almost as much as the soda itself. So, what's the big secret? Some say it's all in the 7X flavoring, a mysterious blend that supposedly gives Coke its unique taste. Others suggest it might be something more exotic, like a rare spice, or a secret distillation process that could rival a top-shelf bourbon. But when you strip away the intrigue and the vaults, the most surprising thing about Coca-Cola might just be the sugar content. Yep, good old-fashioned sugar, the stuff we've been trying to cut out of our diets since the invention of kale smoothies. You know that moment when you're sipping a Coke on a hot day, and it's so refreshing that you forget you're basically drinking liquid candy? That's the real magic of Coca-Cola, the ability to make you feel like a kid again, even if you're technically old enough to know better. The recipe might be locked away, but the taste. That's something we've all experienced, and it's probably a lot less mysterious than we'd like to believe. So next time you pop open a can of Coke, take a moment to appreciate the simplicity behind the secret. Because while the world may never know the exact recipe, we all know the feeling of cracking open an ice-cold Coke and savoring that sweet, fizzy goodness. And in a world full of mysteries, that's one secret we're all happy to keep sipping. 3. The Lost City of Atlantis. The Lost City of Atlantis is like the ultimate Where's Waldo of the ancient world, except instead of a guy in a striped shirt hiding in a sea of chaos, we're talking about an entire city that supposedly vanished into the ocean. Imagine the setting, a glorious, advanced civilization just chilling on the ocean floor, waiting for someone to come and find them like an ancient version of underwater treasure hunt. It sounds like something straight out of a fantasy novel, doesn't it? The story of Atlantis first appears in the works of Plato, who wasn't exactly known for his vacation photos or straightforward travelogues. Plato's tale is essentially the ancient equivalent of posting an Instagram story about an amazing vacation spot that no one can find. According to him, Atlantis was this utopian paradise, brimming with advanced technology and harmonious living, until it was suddenly and catastrophically swallowed by the ocean. It's the kind of plot twist that makes you wonder if Plato's imagination had a bit too much fun with his pen. Fast forward to today, and Atlantis has inspired everyone from conspiracy theorists to cartoonists. There's something so compelling about the idea of a sunken city, packed with hidden treasures and ancient wisdom, just waiting to be discovered. It's like the ultimate what-if scenario that lets us daydream about epic underwater adventures while sipping our coffee and looking at our own decidedly non-mythical spreadsheets. However, before we start packing our scuba gear and diving into the Bermuda Triangle, it's worth noting that Atlantis might just be a case of historical fiction rather than a lost location. Some historians suggest that Plato's Atlantis was more of a cautionary tale, a dramatic example of hubris and the downfall of a great civilization. In other words, it might not have ever existed outside of Plato's overactive imagination. Or, if we want to be really cheeky, maybe Atlantis was just a really elaborate vacation brochure that never quite panned out. So, while it's fun to imagine an underwater paradise teeming with ancient secrets, it's important to remember that Atlantis might just be one of history's great you-had-to-be-there moments. Whether it's lost in the annals of fiction or hiding somewhere beneath the waves, Atlantis remains a captivating mystery, one that's more about the stories we create than the cities we find. 4. The Illuminati's true goals. Ah, the Illuminati. Just the mention of the name is enough to make anyone imagine a clandestine cabal of power brokers huddled in darkened rooms, plotting global domination while sipping on esoteric beverages and debating the finer points of world chess. It's the stuff of conspiracy theory legend, a secret society so exclusive, even their most devoted followers can't agree on what they actually do. But let's cut through the cloak and dagger drama and consider a more grounded possibility. If the Illuminati were as powerful as some believe, their most closely guarded secrets might not involve nefarious plots to control the world. Instead, they might be buried in a labyrinth of spreadsheets, pivot tables, and budget forecasts. Picture it, the Illuminati's grand plan is revealed through a series of meticulously crafted Excel documents detailing the optimal allocation of resources for global influence. The real conspiracy? A secret society's internal struggle over whether to switch to a cloud-based accounting system. Imagine the clandestine meetings. Instead of cryptic rituals and sinister oaths, the members are arguing over whether to adopt a new project management tool or just stick with the tried and true methods. After all, if they're really pulling the strings behind the scenes, they'd need to stay on top of their finances and ensure their investments in covert operations are yielding a good ROI. And of course, they'd need to manage their top secret affairs with the same diligence as any high-level corporate executive. In reality, the allure of the Illuminati might be less about their actual goals and more about their ability to keep us guessing. Maybe their true power lies in their talent for creating a sense of mystery and intrigue. By maintaining an air of enigma, they've managed to inspire countless theories, documentaries, and dinner party conversations. So next time you hear about the Illuminati, instead of picturing them as shadowy figures with a grand scheme for world domination, consider that they might just be a bunch of meticulous bureaucrats, ensuring everything runs smoothly behind the scenes. Or perhaps their most ambitious plan is simply to keep the rest of us endlessly speculating about their true intentions. In the end, their greatest achievement might just be their ability to remain an eternal mystery, an intricate web of speculation that's far more entertaining than any real-world agenda they might have. 5. The origins of the Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci sequence, nature's own little mathematical party trick. If you've ever wondered why the world feels like it's got a touch of magic, you might be looking at the Fibonacci sequence. This seemingly simple sequence, starting with 0 and 1, then adding up the two preceding numbers to get the next one, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and so on, appears in all sorts of unexpected places, from the spirals of a pine cone to the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower. It's like the universe decided to sprinkle a bit of numerical glitter everywhere. But let's face it, there's something almost whimsical about the Fibonacci sequence that captures our imagination. Maybe it's the way it pops up in nature with the same ease that a magician pulls a rabbit out of a hat. I mean, if you can't find the sequence in a pine cone, you'll probably find it in a Romanesco cauliflower, nature's very own fractal masterpiece. And let's not forget the stock market. It's a bit like trying to predict the weather based on the pattern of a pizza slice. But hey, it's fascinating. So, why does the Fibonacci sequence hold us in its mathematical grip? It's not like we're plotting a course to Fibonacci land on a map. We've got simple counting, after all. But there's something inherently captivating about a pattern that appears in so many places, often in a way that feels almost too neat to be a coincidence. It's like finding a secret code hidden in the fabric of reality, making us feel like we're in on a cosmic joke. Moreover, the Fibonacci sequence doesn't just appear in nature. It sneaks into art, architecture, and even music. It's as if it's whispering, "Hey, I'm not just for mathematicians. I'm for anyone who appreciates a bit of beauty and order." The golden ratio, which is intimately linked with the Fibonacci sequence, has been used to create aesthetically pleasing designs for centuries, from the Parthenon to modern graphic design. So, the next time you're admiring a piece of art or a well-designed building, there's a chance that Fibonacci is winking at you from behind the scenes. In the end, maybe our fascination with the Fibonacci sequence isn't just about the numbers themselves, but about the idea that there's an underlying order to the chaos of the universe. It's like finding a secret handshake between the natural world and human curiosity. Who knew a sequence could make us look at the world with a little more wonder? 6. The true identity of Shakespeare. The eternal Shakespearean mystery. Was William Shakespeare truly the genius playwright of Stratford-upon-Avon, or just a clever pseudonym for some aristocratic chameleon? This question has been the subject of intense debate and countless literary soirees for centuries. Much like whether pineapple belongs on pizza, though Shakespeare's identity crisis is slightly more refined. On one side of the stage, we have the traditionalists, who insist that the man from Stratford, who apparently had the audacity to be born in 1564, was indeed the bard himself. They point out that Shakespeare wrote plays like Hamlet and Macbeth, which are chock full of deep human insight, poetic flair, and, let's face it, a fair bit of stage blood. They argue that someone else could not have penned such masterpieces without having a deep, almost otherworldly understanding of human nature, which Shakespeare managed to capture so eloquently. Then, we have the skeptics, who seem to think that Shakespeare's true identity is as elusive as the Holy Grail. Some propose that the real writer was a well-connected aristocrat, perhaps one with a taste for anonymity and a secret pen name. They suggest figures like Edward de Vere, the Earl of Oxford, or Francis Bacon, who apparently moonlighted as a playwright when they weren't busy with political intrigues or Bacon-themed philosophy. These theories are often accompanied by elaborate historical footnotes and a suspicion that Shakespeare's works were too sophisticated for a commoner like Shakespeare to have written. But here's where the plot thickens, or rather, where it falls into a delightful puddle of dramatic irony. Despite the endless speculation, the most compelling evidence points right back to Shakespeare of Stratford. He was, in fact, a remarkably prolific writer with an uncanny knack for grasping human folly, which might suggest he was more than just a figurehead. And let's be honest, the idea that Shakespeare wasn't Shakespeare feels a bit like the reveal in a soap opera where it turns out everyone was actually related all along. Intriguing, but also a bit convenient. So, while it's fun to imagine a shadowy figure pulling the strings behind the scenes, the reality is that Shakespeare probably was who he said he was, a talented playwright from a small town who, despite the odds, managed to pen some of the most memorable works in literary history. And sometimes, the truth is just as dramatic as the fiction. 7. The enigmatic Voynich manuscript. The Voynich manuscript is like the ultimate puzzle that even the best minds can't seem to solve. Imagine someone handing you a book filled with squiggly lines, odd symbols, and bizarre illustrations of plants that look like they were plucked from an alien garden. Now, try making sense of it. That's the Voynich manuscript in a nutshell, a mysterious tome written in a language no one can read, filled with images no one can explain. It's the literary equivalent of a riddle wrapped in an enigma, dipped in confusion, and served with a side of, "What on earth is this?" The manuscript itself is an ancient, handwritten book that dates back to the early 15th century. It's been carbon dated to around the early 1400s, and yet, here we are, over 600 years later, still trying to figure out what it's all about. Is it a secret code? A lost language? An elaborate prank pulled off by a medieval joker with way too much time on his hands? Some theorists even suggest it might be an elaborate hoax, a historical gotcha moment, where the joke is on us for spending centuries trying to decipher it. But maybe, just maybe, it's something more. Some scholars have speculated that the manuscript could be a medical or herbal guide, albeit one from a parallel universe, where the plants and remedies make zero sense. Others have suggested it might be a religious or philosophical work, though what kind of religion involves naked ladies bathing in green pools is anyone's guess. And let's not forget the theory that it could be an early form of science fiction or fantasy literature, written by a medieval J.R.R. Tolkien, who decided that Middle-earth needed more cryptic codes. But what if, stay with me here, it's all just a giant doodle book? Maybe some bored monk decided to get creative with his calligraphy skills and went off the deep end with the artistic flourishes. After all, when you're stuck in a drafty monastery with nothing but time and a quill, why not create the world's most confusing coffee table book? In any case, the Voynich manuscript remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. It's a book that taunts scholars, teases codebreakers, and fascinates anyone with a love for the unknown. So, until someone finally cracks the code, or we all agree it's just medieval graffiti, we're left with the most puzzling page-turner ever created. And who knows? Maybe that's the point. 8. The secret of the Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle, a stretch of ocean bounded by Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, has long been the subject of wild speculation and fantastical tales. It's the kind of place that fuels imaginations and makes for great storytelling, where ships vanish without a trace, and planes seemingly drop off the radar into another dimension. If you're a fan of spooky mysteries, the Bermuda Triangle has probably been on your radar for a while. But if you were hoping for a secret portal to another world or the gateway to Atlantis, well, you might want to sit down for this. Let's be honest, who doesn't love a good mystery? The Bermuda Triangle has been portrayed as a nautical twilight zone, where the rules of physics don't apply, and where you might find yourself rubbing shoulders with alien abductors or exploring the ruins of a lost underwater city. The theories about what's happening in this patch of the Atlantic Ocean are as varied as they are entertaining. Perhaps a UFO decided to set up camp in the deep blue, sucking up unfortunate vessels for intergalactic research. Or maybe there's a secret society of mermaids pulling ships down to their watery lair. But here's where things get a bit less exciting, and a bit more, well, grounded. The actual explanation for the Bermuda Triangle's so-called mysteries is likely a cocktail of perfectly ordinary factors. Think less cosmic vortex and more Mother Nature doing her thing. For starters, the area is one of the most heavily traveled shipping lanes in the world, so statistically, more incidents are bound to happen there. Add in the sometimes treacherous weather conditions, with sudden storms and unpredictable waves, and you've got a recipe for trouble. Then there's human error, navigational mistakes, equipment failures, and plain old bad luck play a role too. Sure, the truth might not be as glamorous as imagining a portal to another dimension, or the lost city of Atlantis rising from the deep, but there's still something fascinating about how this legend has persisted for so long. It's like the ocean itself, vast, mysterious, and a little bit scary. While we might not have the thrill of uncovering alien conspiracies, the real story of the Bermuda Triangle is still a reminder of how powerful and unpredictable the sea can be. So, the next time you're tempted to believe in extraterrestrial hijinks, just remember, sometimes the answer is as simple as, the weather was bad, and the map was wrong. 9. The Code of the Rosetta Stone. The Rosetta Stone is a bit like the ancient world's version of a bilingual dictionary, but with a dash of dramatic flair. Discovered in 1799 by French soldiers during Napoleon's Egyptian campaign, because apparently Napoleon had a knack for stumbling upon really cool stuff, this artifact became the ultimate linguistic puzzle solver. Before the Rosetta Stone came along, Egyptian hieroglyphs were as indecipherable as your Aunt Mabel's handwriting on her famous fruitcake recipe. The stone itself is a rather unassuming slab of granodiorite, fancy word for a type of rock that's basically just a glorified ancient paperweight. What makes it remarkable is the text carved into it, 3 versions of the same decree, written in 3 different scripts: Greek, Demotic, and Egyptian hieroglyphs. Imagine having the same message in English, Spanish, and Mandarin, all on one piece of paper. It's like the ultimate Google Translate of the ancient world. When it was first found, scholars were thrilled because they had something they could use to crack the code of Egyptian hieroglyphs. For centuries, these symbols had been a source of confusion and speculation. It was like trying to read a really old comic book, where the speech bubbles were all in a language you didn't understand. But with the Rosetta Stone, scholars finally had a key to unlock the secrets of these ancient texts. The Greek text was a known quantity, so they used it as a reference to understand the hieroglyphs. But, let's be clear, despite its name, the Rosetta Stone wasn't hiding some epic treasure map or a secret formula for eternal youth. It didn't reveal the location of Cleopatra's hidden palace or ancient recipes for Egyptian papyrus. Instead, it just helped scholars understand what the Egyptians were writing about, like royal decrees, which is kind of like unlocking the historical equivalent of your grandparents' old love letters. So while the Rosetta Stone did unlock a treasure trove of knowledge about ancient Egyptian culture and history, it didn't quite make the leap from language decoder to secret treasure map. It's not exactly the holy grail of archaeology, more like the ancient version of the dictionary that just happens to be carved in rock. Still, it's a pretty incredible artifact and a testament to how a little bit of linguistic magic can illuminate the past. 10. The true purpose of Stonehenge. Ah, Stonehenge. England's iconic circle of giant stones that has baffled, intrigued, and perhaps even mildly irritated historians for centuries. You'd think, after all this time, someone would have figured out what those ancient folks were up to. But nope, it's still as mysterious as ever. Was it a celestial calendar, ticking off the days until some prehistoric summer solstice party? Maybe a burial ground for the VIPs of the Stone Age? Or could it have been an ancient wellness retreat, where druids gathered to align their chakras and perfect their downward dog? The theories are endless. Some folks have suggested it was a site for human sacrifice, which is a bit grim, to say the least. Others think it was a massive clock, not quite as efficient as your iPhone, but hey, it probably got the job done in its own giant rock way. Then there are those who believe Stonehenge was a place for healing, where the ill and weary came to bask in the mystical energy of those monolithic stones. Sounds like the ultimate ancient spa day, minus the fluffy robes and cucumber water. But let's be honest, Stonehenge could just as easily have been a prehistoric social experiment gone awry. Maybe some Neolithic project manager got a little too ambitious, convincing the tribe to lug these massive stones across the countryside, only to end up with, well, something that looks suspiciously like a colossal game of ring toss. Or perhaps it was a group project that no one really understood, but everyone just went along with it, because let's face it, no one wants to be the guy who doesn't get the art installation. Of course, there's also the possibility that Stonehenge was simply the world's first lawn ornament, albeit a very large and heavy one. Picture some ancient homeowner saying, "You know what this empty field needs? A giant circle of stones that weighs more than a herd of woolly mammoths." And lo and behold, Stonehenge was born, leaving future generations scratching their heads and trying to decipher its purpose. In the end, the true meaning of Stonehenge may never be known, and maybe that's okay. Its mystery is part of its charm, like the ancient world's greatest unsolved riddle. So, whether it was a sacred site, a celestial calendar, or just a really over-the-top landscaping project, Stonehenge continues to captivate our imaginations, proof that sometimes the questions are just as interesting as the answers. Conclusion. While the allure of forbidden knowledge is undeniably tempting, sometimes it's better to leave certain secrets buried. Whether it's ancient conspiracies or cryptic manuscripts, the thrill of the unknown often turns out to be less about groundbreaking revelations and more about keeping our imaginations and our sanity intact. So, enjoy the mystery, but maybe don't lose sleep over it. After all, some secrets are best left untouched. Well, folks, that's a wrap for today. Here at Whitwork Studios, we thrive on the love and loyalty of bright minds like yours. If you're in the mood for the full VIP treatment, unlimited access to our latest podcasts, and the chance to support our creative ventures, why not consider joining our premium subscribers club? You're savvy enough to find your way there without a map, I'm sure. But before you head off to dazzle the world with all that fresh knowledge, I've got to tip my hat to our friends over at Gizmo League. These guys are the real heroes, making this podcast happen and delivering all that tech magic straight to your ears. So, if you're on the hunt for some gadget greatness, check them out at www.gizmoleague.com. Until we meet again, keep that curiosity alive and stay awesome. Cheers!